Dear friends, welcome. To those here in person and to those gathering with us online in our live stream as well, welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Luke Stevens Royer. I serve here as minister, and I've been blessed to be minister to the Hayes family as well. It's good to be gathered together this day, even as our hearts are broken. We gather this day in a sacred circle of love because a dear loved one has died. But more importantly, we gather this day because a dear loved one has lived. Jason lived a life of love gone far, far too soon, but enough love to fill each heart in this room and beyond, enough love and light to hold us in memory in these sacred days. And Jason would love the sound of children in this space. We gather here because the life lived mattered to each person in this room in different ways, that Jason's life touched yours some way. And today, even in our grief, we celebrate and we give thanks for that life. Because let's be honest, Jason wouldn't approve of too much sorrow lingering on, especially about him. But we hold our grief and our gratitude mixed together. And we let sacred memories hold us, and a love that knows no end, to hold Jason in the embrace of love and light eternal. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. As the music plays today, Sarah and Ian will light the chalice, a symbol of light and love, of the warmth of community and the fire of hope. And today we light this chalice in the sacred memory of Jason Hayes. There are not enough words that one can share to hold the memory of any life, especially a life too soon taken. But it is by story and words that we try to hold that memory. Brian's going to share a reflection for us.
My name is Brian Patterson. My wife Emily and I flew in last night from Philadelphia. And it wasn't really until I got into Minnesota that I really felt his loss. So I just wanted to share that. To the Minnesotans here, make sure that you thank Dave on your way out. If Dave wouldn't have introduced me to Jason, we wouldn't have become friends. Years later, Jason would have never gone on an ultimate beer run with me to the Midwest. And Jason would have had no idea that Rochester, Minnesota existed. He and Sarah would have probably moved somewhere in the Midwest. You just probably wouldn't have had the pleasure to have your life touched by my best friend. Jason was the kind of guy willing to risk everything with the hope of a better education for Ian and a brighter future for his family. And seeing everybody here today is just proof that he made the right decision. The community that Team Hayes is a part of here is amazing, and I'm grateful for it. Ian, Your dad was incredibly proud of the independent young man you've become. I think your dad will want me to tell you not to let this sudden tragedy define you. Your dad lost his dad suddenly when he was about your age, and it was a very tough time for him. But he refused to let his life be defined by that tragic moment. He rose above it. He didn't let it pull him down. And I know that it's hard for you to express emotion sometimes and knowing what feelings are appropriate to express. And right now, in this time, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to laugh still. It's okay to still have times of happiness while you remember your dad. If you ever need anybody to talk to, you don't know what kind of Gundam model you want to build next, or you're having issues that you want to just talk about, you know I'm here for you. Sarah, I remember like it was yesterday, walking into the apartment on Lombard Avenue in Everett, seeing you moving your stuff in. For those of you who don't know, Jason moved to Washington. He was my roommate. And back in the late 90s and early 2000s, he was not always super great communicator. He failed to mention that Shorty was moving in. At the time, it seemed like a huge deal. And later we would recount the incident with laughter and feelings of nostalgia. Now I look back on it, and he was making decisions to help the collective you, even if they were the tough ones, and even if they ruffled some feathers, because he was always making decisions to better the collective you. You were just a kid back then. And he was leading you early on, but Shorty, you have become a strong leader in your own right over the years. Even though he's no longer with us here, he's always inside you, and not in a cliche way. You two grew together as one, and I know moving forward, I'll see glimpses of him in you. Like the way you answer a question, or if you add a little flavor to a word, I'm going to see him in you. And in the coming days, weeks, months, and years, you will have some what would Jay do moments that pop up in your life. And when those moments come, stop and listen for him, because he's part of you, and his impact on you and who you are today will be felt for a lifetime beyond his physical presence. Jason loved you through all the ups and downs, curveballs. That is the Team Hayes journey. And there were some tough times you two weathered together, and through it all, Jason was there, a loving, faithful, and patient partner for you. And Shorty, this chapter in your story has come to an untimely conclusion. But the Team Hayes journey has you battle-tested and ready for the next chapter. And whatever it may bring, you're one of the strongest people I know, and there isn't anything that you can't do. I love you.
This was the only song Jason requested.
Sarah and Ian, we're devastated by this, but we cannot begin to fathom the enormity of it for the two of you. You're in our hearts, and I'm humbled, honored, and beyond grateful for the opportunity to speak here today. Ian, Jason lost his father when you were about the same age that you are now. I was there with him the day he found out he wasn't going to be coming home. But I also saw him pick himself up off the floor and take the first step into the rest of his life. Daryl had given him the tools to become the man that he became. A hard worker, an amazing friend, a devoted husband, and a father who loved you with every fiber of his being. Your father overflowed with loyalty, respect, work ethic, kindness, and love. And with the tools and the love passed on to you from your mother and your father who will be at your side always and forever, I'm more than confident that you will flourish and have a life full of love, happiness, and everything you want from it. Sarah, it was 20 years ago that Jason sat in front of me in my living room in Everett. I'm going to marry Sarah. B, set the stage for that. And given the circumstances at the time, my left brain was trying to tell him to slow him down a little bit, but I saw the glow and the love in his eyes, and I knew that he knew something. And it was from that moment forward that you were his center, you were his heart, you were his soul and his singular purpose. Over the next 20 years, I saw him pour his all into you. And just a few weeks ago, when I saw him look at you while you told us about your work and the pride that you take in it, I saw the pride that he took in you. It's the same look he had 20 years ago. It's the same look he's had since then. It's the same look he has right now and into eternity. Sarah, if I've ever not expressed this adequately before, shame on me. You're the very best thing I could have hoped for my best friend, and I love you with all of my heart. My name is Dave, and my friendship and brotherhood with Jason on this plane spanned 28 years. From when I met him in Dover High, talking about what type of music he was into, to having pedicures together, my first, and sitting around a campfire just a few weeks ago. In between was 5 states, hundreds of friends, thousands of miles, and countless memories, emotions, troubles, fun, laughter, sadness, and love. For me, Jason was one of those rare souls that I could pick the phone up and give him a call, no matter what span of time had elapsed, and I felt like I hadn't missed a beat. No matter what happened, or whatever words were said, he always chose the path of love. After the news broke of his illness, and in the weeks that followed, I began the process of wrapping my head and my heart around the magnitude of what was happening. And when Jason called me and asked me to speak here today, I thought the best thought I could relay was a thought that was providing me with just a sliver of comfort through his illness and in his passing. And I told him as much during our last day together. Jason is a part of my heart, as he is a part of yours. But more, there's so much positivity that we took from Jason's example, whether consciously or not. His perspective on life was something to aspire to. He used to tell me, "No te preocupas," is something he picked up from a owner at a pizza shop that he worked at in high school back east. It means don't worry about it. It loosely means don't worry about it. He had a natural gift not to let that which truly does not matter affect him. He had ability to work through his gut reactions and allow reason and love to guide him. Because of it, he showed me how important it was to forgive and to seek forgiveness. He had the soul of an explorer. He was bound to a path to better understand himself and the world around him. He would not let barriers of convention get in his way. Whether it was an overnight trip to St. Louis, a tour of ballparks and breweries, moving to Washington to meet the love of his life, or moving his family here to finally settle in the place that he felt in his heart was home. His curiosity drove him to an unconventional but very rewarding journey through his life. I feel like every time he sat me down or called me to tell me his next big plans for his next big adventure, my initial reaction was usually somewhere between disbelief and a healthy level of concern. But once I could see the wonder in his eyes and hear the excitement in his voice, what else could I do except give him my support and watch him take flight again? And when I feel that sense of adventure, the curiosity to find out what might lie at the end of an unfamiliar path, I will remember him, and he will be there with me. He always had a drive to be a better person. It seems no matter what task, large or small, he gave it the attention that was worthy of him. He did it with determination, effort, and humility. And whenever I feel that drive to choose the tougher but righteous path in myself from now on, Jay will be there with me, and I will honor him by trying harder. Jason had a tremendous love of family and a sense of duty to safeguard and cultivate that love. And when he did it with equal parts joy and ferocity. Even through the darkest and toughest times, when most people would give up, Jason was at his absolute best. When it came to the love between Sarah, Ian, and himself, failure was never an option. So when my children laugh, or I gaze into my wife's eyes, and I feel that fire in my belly to do better for my family, I will nurture that fire, and he will be there with me. I hope everyone here has been fortunate enough to absorb and incorporate some of the positivity that Jay absolutely radiated throughout his life. I hope you recognize and act on that positivity. And when you do, I hope that you feel him there, because those are the times that he's with you. And if you continue to honor, nurture, and cherish that positivity, Jason will live on forever. Jason, I love you. I feel you with me. You're in my heart forever. And I promise to honor that presence with my very best effort until my very last breath. Thank you. Thank you.
Spreading joy and mischief. That's a synopsis of Jason Hayes, shared by his loved ones, joy and mischief. A life devoted to finding happiness, a life devoted to not just enjoying life, but creating moments and places and experiences where that joy that he had spread. It was contagious in the good, non-pandemic way. But mischief, in the best ways possible, too, to live and act toward a world that was less rigid and more loving is what Jason wanted and lived by. Believing in connection and energy with other people and the world, he believed in a good type of trouble, being clear and honest in how we as people, as a world, could do better, to create the conditions where joy and love and justice flourished. Jason was given the chance, which he and I talked about a little bit, which not everybody has, the burden and the gift to know that his days were quite numbered. He, with his family, made hard choices in care, choosing quality of life, which takes a type of courage and clarity that life is never at its core simply about the length of time, the number of things or days. It's about how that time and those days are spent, and how many beautiful moments and days were spent before then, how we attend to each moment we're giving, fragile and fleeting as it may feel. My favorite church event of all time, don't tell any of the other church members, but my favorite church event was one that Jason clearly loved too. It was the beer tasting event downstairs in the Commons, where I got to speak about the history of religion and brewing and monasteries. And Jason spoke of his love of craft brewing and beer, and that beer was what brought him to Rochester, which we've heard already. And even more so, how he celebrated the most simple things that brought joy that built community. When I walked into that room and he was setting up the different kinds, he's like, have you tried this double IPA? And what about this? I mean, it was just like a connoisseur and an inviter. He invited you in, no matter what he was doing, whether he loves it or not. Because he loved things that built community and spread joy. In the hospital, in the first several days of learning of the news of his cancer as we spoke, he also wanted to be sure that Jack at Jack's Bottle Shop here in Rochester wasn't worried that Jason hadn't been in the last couple days. He's like, I hope he knows I'm not there because I'm in the hospital. Like, he hasn't lost a customer. I love it there. So if you see Jack at Jack's Bottle Shop, tell him Jason is with him. I love that he thought that. And that's how he thought. He filled his life with gratitude mixed with his grief in that hospital room for each moment, each conversation, each text coming in, each expression of care and love from those around him. He felt each one deeply. And it clearly mattered the world to him. So you each know and knew Jason in your own way. Some of the words that described him by loved ones in recent days were these: kind, generous, the most loving smartass I knew. He made everyone feel included, someone wrote, was a quick friend, no matter who you are. He was exuberant, genuine, loved and led with his whole heart. Someone said he thought of others in a way that felt effortless. He made those around him feel safe and wanted. He was the best boss. And then, as on the teacher, cancer is so not woo-tastic. Ian said he'd remember the way his dad always saw the best in people, was always ready for a good time. Ian used to call Jay his partner. They were true buddies. Sarah said he was such a good dad. And Sarah said, Jason and I had an amazing life. How many people can be under 40 and have a lifetime of love that started in a Pizza Hut? She said we loved each other hard. We put Team Hayes first. She said neither of us were perfect. Our life wasn't perfect, but we were perfect for each other. He was loved by many. He was loved by all of you and so many others beyond this room and this time. And I just keep thinking of how true that sentiment is. None of us are perfect, but sometimes we're perfect for each other. Sometimes we need each other when our hearts break open. And we all know that not one service, no amount of time and reflections, even if everybody got up here and spoke for hours on end, it can't sum up a totality of a life, its impact, its meaning, its love. So right now I invite you to take a breath. Take a deep breath. You can close your eyes if you want. Feel grounded wherever you are. And I want you to bring to your mind a favorite moment with Jason that brings you gladness. Wade through the grief to the root of grief, which is love. That's where it comes from. Think of a moment that you loved where it was filled with joy. Maybe it's a phrase that he said that you loved and you can just hear his voice saying it, or an expression or a smile or a moment or a place, some time when life and joy with him was overflowing in the simple miracle that brought joy and love. Hold that memory for just a moment. Hold that feeling. Hold that in gratitude. That's what love does. It brings those feelings, those moments, those gifts of life back to us across distance. Like the light of stars that reaches us, it takes years and years, right, for the light of stars to reach us that we experience from across the expanses of the universe. It takes lifetimes. Sometimes love and memory are like that too. No matter the distance, no matter how separate we might feel, love has the ability to reach across lifetimes to find you. It's the feeling of joy mixed finely with grief and sorrow that lives forever. It's love that holds us and connects us. It's the little things that show up in our lives that remind us of how Jason's soul and so many other ancestors that we have lost and loved keep living. Maybe it's a phrase that has found its way into your own way of speaking. Maybe it's a place he loved, a beer he enjoyed. Maybe it's something we do or say or love because of him, some experience, something he loved. Maybe it's simply the feeling of what it felt like to be with him. It would be best if he were here. And yet it is love that does not end and keeps finding us wherever we are. So whatever feeling and memory and stories you'll keep holding on to in these days to come, and Sarah and Ian, all those moments and all this love mixed with grief, it is absolutely okay to feel whatever you're feeling and to know there is more love than you can imagine, both within and beyond you, that will be there to hold you. Whatever feeling or memory you're holding that brings you joy, that helps you find joy and mischief and exuberance and the clarity to remember life is fragile and fleeting and beautiful, all of it worth celebrating, hold on to that. And in that holding, Jason still lives with us. It is the broken heart that reminds us how much love there is. May that love hold us. Amen. So before the benediction, a very brief story and then an invitation. After the service, first we'll go down through the lobby to the courtyard. You all are invited to linger there or outside to greet folks and visit a little bit, tell stories. The morning that Jason died, I went over to the house and had time with the spirit animals so many spirit animals in that home. The turtle, the cats, the dogs were all over, and they were so full of love as they were each time I went. Spirit animals were there, and I tried to offer a short reading, a blessing. And somebody, I won't name names, Melissa, somebody's phone went off in the middle of this reading that I will share as we end our time with the song Staying Alive. Horrible, but so funny. And something that Jason, we feel, maybe had his hand in. It was something he'd love. Not too much sorrow, not too much glibness, joy. Keep finding joy. It's how he lived his life and what he would tell to me and you right now. Find joy and love and laughter, because that's what makes it all worth it, right? So I invite you to think of a word, just one word, that comes to mind about Jason. His character, the experience of him, his way of being in the world. Find that word. And as you're comfortable, as you're moved, just speak it moderately loudly into the room. Wu-Tang. Enthusiasm. Free spirit. Kindness. Daring. Welcoming. Exuberant, generous, fun-loving, compassionate. So on the count of 3, all the other words that are sitting right there, speak them together. 1, 2, 3. There are 1,000 words. You, as you're able to rise in body or spirit. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, in the opening of buds, when we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. We carry you with us, the love which you instilled in us and this world, into the embrace of love and light eternal, at home among the stars, and our hearts we send you. May it be so.